Welcome to this Power BI tutorial. In this video, we're going to create a professional e-commerce orders dashboard step by step. At the very top of the dashboard, you'll learn how to build dynamic KPIs for sales, quantity sold, orders, and average order value using DAX calculations, with year-over-year comparisons and minute-max trend lines to highlight performance. We'll then dive into visuals such as a Lollipop chart for monthly sales, a rounded column chart for category performance, and even an SVG pie chart embedded inside a table to showcase customer segments in a creative way. You'll also see how to design an interactive map with country-level highlights to make insights more powerful. On top of that, we'll refine the dashboard with formatting and a striking dark theme enhanced by purple accents, green for growth, and red for declines. By the end of this tutorial, you'll not only know how to build advanced visuals in Power BI but also how to design dashboards that are both professional and visually engaging. Let's begin. We will start by uploading a flat CSV file. Click on Get Data and select Text CSV. After the data opens, click on Transform Data so that we can clean the data. When the Power Query Editor opens, delete the Change Type step on the right. This is a good practice because it allows you to review and adjust the data types manually, helping you better understand your dataset. We also need to understand our columns better, and to do this we click on View, checking the column distribution, column quality, and column profile gives a quick health check of your data before loading it into Power BI. It helps you see missing values, spot errors like text in a number column, and understand how unique or repeated the values are. This way, you can quickly know the shape and quality of your data without scrolling through every row. We will also adjust each column to match the correct data type. Click on Transform and set Order ID, User ID, and Product ID as whole numbers. For Category, choose Text. Set Price and Total Price as decimal numbers, while Quantity should be a whole number. Finally, set Order Date as a date and time, and change Country and Consumer Segment to text. We also need to create a schema model from our flat file to make the data easier to use and analyze in Power BI. To do this, we will create 2 dimension tables and 1 fact table by referencing the original file 3 times. When referencing, we only keep the columns we need and remove the rest, so each table is clean and focused. Rename the first table as Fact Orders, which will include Order ID, User ID, Product ID, Price, Quantity, Total Price, and Order Date. The second table will be Dim Customer, containing User ID, Country, and Customer Segment, and we remove duplicates from User ID so each customer appears only once. The final table will be Dim Product, which will contain Product ID and Category, and we remove duplicates from Product ID so each product is unique. Next, disable the original flat file from loading, since we don't need it anymore. Then go back to Home and click Close and Apply. This will load the new tables and take us back to Power BI Desktop, where we can build the relationships for the schema model we just created. Power BI will automatically detect these relationships. The fact table connects to the customer table through User ID and to the product table through Product ID. These connections are important because they let us filter and analyze the data correctly. For example, checking sales by customer segment or by product category. Now, we are going to create a date dimension table from the model view, also called a dim date. This table is one of the most important parts of any data model because it allows us to do time-based analysis inside Power BI. Without a proper date table, it becomes very difficult to compare sales across months, quarters, or years. To build this table, we start by writing a DAX formula. We use the calendar function, which automatically generates a list of dates. The calendar begins with the earliest order date in our fact orders table and ends with the latest order date. That way, every single date in our dataset is captured, and we don't miss anything in our analysis. Once we have that continuous list of dates, we add more information to it by creating extra columns. For example, we add a year column, which pulls the year from each date. Then we add a quarter column, and we label it as Q1, Q2, Q3, or Q4 depending on where the date falls. After that, we add the month number, which is simply the number of the month, from 1 for January up to 12 for December. We also include the month name, so instead of just seeing numbers, we can display January, February, March, and so on. To make it easier for compact visuals, we add the month initial, which is just the first letter of the month name. Another useful column is year month, which combines the year and month together in a format like 2023 to 2001 or 2023 to 2002. This makes it very easy to create time series charts and compare sales month by month. By building all these columns into our dim date table, we now have a very powerful tool that we can connect to our fact orders table. Once we build the relationship, we'll be able to slice and filter our data by year, by quarter, by month, or even by custom groupings. This step is considered a best practice in Power BI because it makes reports more flexible, cleaner, and much easier to analyze. Now that we have created our schema model, the next step is to start building the measures that we will need for our analysis. The first thing we do is create a dedicated measure table. To do this, go to Home, select Enter Data, and create a blank table. Rename this table as Measure Table. Once the measure table is ready, right-click on it and select New Measure. Our first measure will be total sales, which we calculate by writing a DAX formula using the sum function on the total price column from the fact orders table. This will add up all the sales and give us the total revenue. Next, we create a second measure called quantity sold. Here, we again use the sum function, but this time on the quantity column from the fact orders table. This shows us the total number of products sold. After that, we write a third measure called total orders. For this one, we use the distinct count function on the order ID column from the fact orders table. This measure is important because it tells us how many unique orders were made each year, which is a better indicator of activity than just total sales or quantity. Finally, we create our fourth measure, which is average order value. This is done by dividing total sales by total orders. This measure gives us insight into the average amount of money generated per order, which is very useful for understanding customer behavior and sales patterns. Now that we have created our measures, we need to organize them. In Model View, select one measure, then under Properties type a name in the Display folder box. Let's call it Performance Metrics since all our KPIs are about sales performance. After that, simply drag the other measures, total orders, quantity sold, and total sales, into the same folder. This keeps everything neat and makes it easier to find our measures when building visuals. Now let's create some time intelligence measures so we can analyze sales over time. The first one is called Sales Previous Year. What this measure does is look at our sales in the current filter context, for example, this month or this year, and then shifts that same time period 1 year back. So if we're looking at sales for 2024, it will return sales for 2023. This is really useful for comparing performance across years. The second measure is sales year-over-year growth. This one takes the current year's sales, subtracts last year's sales, and then divides by last year's sales. The result is a growth percentage. So if sales increased from 1 million to 1.2 million, the measure will show 20% growth. If sales went down, it will return a negative value showing the decline. The third measure we're creating is called Sales Growth Label, and this one is more advanced. It uses variables to make the final result easy to read. The first variable is growth. This simply stores the value of our year-over-year growth measure, the percentage difference between this year's sales and last year's sales. The second variable is current year. This picks up the year from our date table that's currently in context. So if we're looking at 2024, this variable holds 2024. The third variable is previous year text. This checks if there's only one year selected, and if so, it calculates the previous year by subtracting 1. If not, it just shows PY, which stands for previous year. Finally, the return statement puts everything together. It checks if growth is blank. If it is, it shows nothing. Otherwise, it formats growth as a percentage, adds an up arrow if it's positive or a down arrow if it's negative, and then adds the text versus followed by the previous year. So on a KPI card, instead of just seeing 0.20, you'll see something like 20% vs 2023, which is much easier to understand at a glance. Once we've built these measures, it's important to keep them organized. In Model View, we'll create a folder called Time Intelligence, then inside that, a subfolder called Sales. We'll drag all these measures into that folder so our model stays clean and professional. We're now going to create two measures that highlight the highest and lowest sales points in a line chart. The first one is max sales. This measure starts by creating a variable called maxVal, which calculates the maximum total sales across all months. To do this, it uses the function all on the year-month column from the date table. Using all is important because it ignores any filters applied in the report and ensures we are always looking at the true maximum sales value from the entire dataset. After that, another variable called check compares the sales for the current month against this maximum value. If the current month's sales match the maximum, it returns that value, but if not, it returns blank. The return statement then outputs this result, so in a line chart only the peak month is highlighted and all other months remain blank. The second measure is minute sales, and it works in the same way but for the lowest sales. The measure first creates a variable called minuteVal, which calculates the minimum total sales across all months, again using all to ignore filters and capture the true minimum value. Then, just like before, the check variable compares the current month's sales against the minimum. If it matches, it returns the value. If not, it stays blank. The return statement then ensures only the lowest sales month is displayed. When we add these measures to a line chart, Power BI highlights just the highest and lowest points in the sales trend, making it very easy to see performance peaks and dips without manually scanning through the chart. Finally, to keep everything organized, we'll go into Model View, create a folder called Highlights, add a subfolder called Sales, and place both measures inside. Let's build our first KPI card. Go to the Visuals pane, scroll down to KPI, and select the new card. For the data, we will add our total sales measure. Next, we will format the card to make it more readable. Go to the Format settings, scroll down to Cards, and turn off the accent bar. Then scroll up to Callout Values, increase the font size of the main values to 20, and set the labels to size 13. After that, scroll down to Layout and set the vertical alignment to top. We will also adjust the size and position of the card so it looks well placed on the report page. Now let's add some extra details to our KPI by using reference labels. Under the Reference Labels section, choose Total Sales under Select Series. Then, for the label value, select the sales previous year measure that we created earlier. To make it clearer, go to the Select Label option, change the title from Content to Custom, and rename it to PY, which stands for Previous Year. Let us go ahead and format our reference label. Next, we will add a slicer for the year so that we can filter the report by different years. But you will notice a problem. The slicer is showing blanks. This issue happens because the order date column currently includes both date and time, which creates those blank entries when we try to group by year. To fix this, we need to go back into Power Query. Click Transform Data, then select the Order Date column. Under the Transform tab, choose Date and then Date Only. Once that is applied, go back to Home and select Close and Apply. After the update loads, you will see that the year slicer is now working correctly with no blanks. Finally, we can go ahead and format the slicer so it looks clean and matches the style of our report. Next, we will create another KPI card, this time for the year-over-year growth. Start by selecting a new card and add the sales growth KPI measure to the data field. Once the card is added, we'll format it to make it more readable. Set the font size of the values to 10 and turn off the label to reduce clutter. Then, under the card's formatting options, switch off the accent bars and background, and adjust the size of the card to fit nicely on the report. When we look at the card, we notice that the versus text and the year appear too close together, making it hard to read. To fix this, we go back to our DAX formula and add the required spacing on VS, then save the changes and close the DAX. Place the growth label below the previous year. Next, we will apply conditional formatting to the growth KPI card to make it easier to interpret at a glance. Under the Callout Values section, click the FX button for color formatting. In the dialog that opens, set the base field to the year-over-year growth measure. For the first rule, choose green for any value greater than 0 and less than the maximum, which highlights positive growth. For the second rule, choose red for values less than 0, showing negative growth clearly. Once both rules are set, click OK, and the formatting will be applied. Now the growth KPI card will automatically display green for positive performance and red for declines. Next, we will add a trending line chart to visualize sales over time. Select the line chart from the Visuals pane and set the X-axis to year-month and the Y-axis to total sales. Expand and adjust the chart to fit under the style presets, setting it to match borders, and turn off the title for a cleaner look. We will also turn off the grid lines and set the shaded area transparency to 90% for a subtle background. Then, add the max sales and minute sales measures to the Y-axis. In the format settings, turn on markers for max sales and set them to green, and for minute sales, set them to red. This way, when you hover over each month, you can immediately see which month had the highest and lowest sales. Next, turn off the Legends X-axis values, Y-axis values, background, and visual border. Then resize the line chart so it sits neatly under the KPI cards and acts like a trend line. As you click through each year, you'll notice that only 2023 shows positive growth, while 2024 and 2025 show negative growth, making it immediately clear which periods experienced a decline. I went ahead and added an order image, a title for the dashboard, and also a slicer for country. I've also created the other KPI cards using the same process we followed earlier, so I won't repeat every step. Now, as we click through each year, you'll notice that only 2023 shows positive growth, while the other years declined. On top of that, each trend line makes it easy to spot exactly which month had the highest performance and which had the lowest, giving us a quick way to see the ups and downs over time. Now we want to analyze how sales, quantity, and orders performed across different categories to see which ones did better. To do this, we'll create a field parameter. On the Modeling tab, go to New Parameter and choose Fields. From there, select Total Sales, Total Quantity Sold, and Total Orders. Make sure the Add Slicer to Page option is selected, then click Create. A slicer will pop up, and you'll also notice the parameter created in the DAX bar. Let's rename these fields to Sales, Quantity, and Orders. After saving the changes, wait for it to apply, then click Home and change the slicer to the new slicer by scrolling down in the Visual section. Then format the slicer by going to Layout and reducing the max row shown to 1. Close the layout and turn off the title. Then on Size and Style, turn off the background and the visual border. Go to Callout Values and reduce the font size to 10 and set the layout to top. Resize the slicer and on Buttons, turn a fill for all state and on Callout Values set another color when the field parameter is selected. Then scroll down and on Buttons turn on the accent bar and position it to right. As for now, the parameter is not functioning because it is not connected to any visual. Next, let's go ahead and create a bar chart. For the y-axis, we'll drag in category, and for the x-axis, we'll use the field parameter we just created. Once the chart appears, resize it so it's more visible and then adjust the height, width, and vertical position to fit neatly on the page. To polish things, let's make a few formatting tweaks. First, we'll fix the category label so that it starts with a capital C. Then, we'll set the slicer to force selection so that one option is always active. Moving on to the bar chart styling, reduce the title font size to 10 and scroll down to adjust the title spacing to 0. On the x-axis, turn off the values to keep the chart clean. Under bars, scroll to Layout and set the space between categories to 70% for a more balanced look. Next, turn on data labels and position them to the outside end of each bar so the numbers are easy to read. Finally, let's enhance the design with error bars. Since we're focusing on sales here, select Sales in the field parameter and turn on error bars. Drag Total Sales into the upper bound field to highlight the bar limits. To keep the style consistent, reduce the bar border size to 0 and change the border color to match the bar color. Then, under Markers, set the size to 10 and choose the circle shape. This gives the bars a clean, modern finish while making comparisons across categories much easier to see. We'll repeat the same process for the other fields as well. Let's start with quantity. Select it from the parameter, then go to Format and scroll down to error bars. Turn them on, and for the upper bound, drag in Total Quantity Sold. Just like before, reduce the bar border size to 0 and change the border color so it matches the bar itself. Then, under Markers, set the shape to a circle and increase the size to 10 pixels. Finally, scroll up to Data Labels and, under Values, adjust the decimal places to 0 so the numbers are cleaner and easier to read. Select Orders from the parameter, then go to Format and scroll down to Error Bars. Turn them on, and this time drag Total Orders into the upper bound. Again, reduce the bar border size to 0 and match the border color to the bar color. Under Markers, change the shape to a circle and increase the size to 10 pixels. Now, as we click through each field in the parameter slicer, you'll see the chart respond in real time, showing us sales, quantity sold, or orders depending on the selection. From this view, it's easy to notice that clothing, home, and electronics stand out as the top-performing categories across all three measures. We also want to understand how sales, quantity, and orders performed across the months. To do this, we'll build a Lollipop-style chart, but instead of a custom visual, we'll use a regular line chart. Select the line chart from the Visuals pane, then drag month initial onto the x-axis and the field parameter we created onto the y-axis. Right away, you'll notice that Power BI groups letters like J together since multiple months start with the same letter. To fix this, we'll need to sort our month initial by month number but using Tabular Editor, which is much easier. If you'd like a detailed tutorial on creating a single letter month column using Tabular, check out my other video. Now let's align the line chart by adjusting size and position. For now, let's do this using the Tabular Editor. Click on External Tools and select Tabular Editor. It may take a moment to load if you click multiple times, so be patient. Once it opens, expand Tables, go into Dim Date, and select Month Initial. At the bottom, click Sort by Column, then open the three dots and select Month Number. Click OK. Then press Ctrl+Save and close the Tabular Editor. Back in Power BI, you'll see the month axis update correctly in the line chart. Now let's format the chart. Reduce the title size to 10, turn off grid lines, then scroll down to Error Bars. Turn them on and drag the parameter into the upper bound. Next, turn off the default markers. Under Bars, change the color to match the bar chart we created earlier. Increase the width to 5, and reduce the border size to 0. After that, scroll back up to the Markers section, turn them on, increase the size to 12 pixels, and then turn off the lines to complete the Lollipop effect. We'll repeat the same steps for each measure. First, select Sales, open the formatting options, scroll to Error Bars, turn them on, and drag the parameter to the upper bound. Change the bar color, set the width to 5, and turn the markers off. Next, for quantity, select the line chart again, go to Error Bars, turn them on, and drag the parameter to the upper bound. Adjust the bar color, increase the width to 5, and turn the markers off. Finally, repeat the same for orders using the same formatting steps. Once everything is set up, the results are clear. Sales peaked in January. Quantity sold was also highest in January, while the highest number of orders came in both August and January. This gives us an easy way to spot monthly trends and compare performance across measures. To gain a deeper understanding of our data, we will now create two donut charts, one that shows how each customer segment contributed to performance and another that highlights how different quarters performed. Begin by selecting the donut chart from the Visuals pane, then drag Customer Segment to the Legend field and the parameter to the Values. Once the chart appears, adjust its height, width, horizontal, and vertical placement so that it fits neatly within the dashboard layout. Next, move into the title settings and reduce the font size to 10. Under Layout, reduce the spacing below the title to 0 for a cleaner look. Close the title options, open slices, and set the inner radius to 85%. Open Data Labels. Under Label Contents, check both data values and percentage of total so that viewers can see exact values and their share of the whole. Turn the legend on, position it at the bottom center, then open the text section and increase the font size to 8. Lastly, open rotation and set it to 133 degrees, making sure all labels are clearly visible without overlapping. From this view, we can observe that low-level customers contributed the most sales, achieved the highest quantities, and placed the largest number of orders. The next step is to create a donut chart for quarters. Instead of building from scratch, we will duplicate the first chart, then resize and position the two charts so they fit well side by side. On the duplicate, go to the Data panel and replace the legend field with quarter, keeping the values the same. Then, open the Format panel, navigate to Data Labels, and set the values to display with 0 decimal places. After that, close Data Labels, open Rotation, and adjust it to 146 degrees for better label positioning. With this setup, we can now see that Q1 recorded the highest sales in the year 2023. Quantity sold also peaked in Q1, and the highest number of orders were placed during this same period, giving us a clear picture of seasonal performance. The next visual we will build is a map chart, which will help us analyze how sales performed across the 15 countries. To make the analysis more interactive, we will later add a tooltip page that shows additional insights on quantity and orders whenever we hover over a specific country. We begin by inserting a map visual from the Visuals pane. However, to achieve the desired projection style, we need to switch from the default map to a shape map. The projection we want to use is called orthographic, but it requires a custom map file. To get this file, open your browser and search for Natural Earth. From the results, select the one with the W logo, which is the official Natural Earth site. Once the page loads, click on Downloads, scroll down to the medium scale data, and select Cultural. Under Admin 0, Countries, click Download Countries. This will download the shapefile to your computer. Make sure you remember where it is saved. Next, open a new browser tab and search for MapShaper. On the MapShaper site, upload the downloaded file from Natural Earth. After uploading, click Export, select topo.json as the format, and export the file. Now return to Power BI and select your shape map visual. In the Format pane, go to Map Settings and set Map Type to Custom Map. A browser window will open. Browse to where you saved the topo.json file and select it. Then, under Projection, choose Orthographic, and set Zoom to Auto Zoom. Adjust and position the map on your dashboard for visibility and alignment. Finally, format the map to match the rest of the dashboard. Go to the title section and reduce the font size to 10. Then, open Fill Colors, turn on Color Gradient, and define the minimum, center, and maximum colors to create a clear and visually appealing distinction between lower and higher performing countries. Under the map visual, we are going to create a table that highlights the top 5 countries so we can clearly see where most orders came from. Begin by selecting a table visual from the Visuals pane and add countries to the column field. Then, from the Build section, rename the column title to Top 5 Countries. Next, go to the View tab, open the Filter pane, and expand the section for country. Change the filter type to Top N, enter 5. Then under Filter by select Total Sales and click Apply. Once you're done, you can close the filter panel. Even though the filter will not appear on the report page, it is still applied in the background. With the table still selected, go to Format and turn off the title. Then, return to the fields and add the sales percentage, which calculates each country's contribution to total sales in percentage terms. This is how I created the sales percentage. Back in Format, remove the total value since row total not needed here. Now, we want to take it a step further by adding another column that shows the sales percentage distribution in the form of a mini pie chart. To achieve this, we'll use an SVG template from Kerry Kolosko's website. Open a browser, search for Kerry Kolosko, and click on the page with the diamond logo. Once inside, go to Templates, select SVG Templates, then scroll down to Circular Gauges. Open it and copy the SVG DAX code for pie chart. Back in Power BI, create a new measure and paste the code into the DAX editor. Adjust it as needed to suit your visualization. This is how is adjust the DAX to incorporate the sales percent distribution. Click Save and close the editor. For better organization, head to Model View and create a folder to store the pie chart measure. Once created, select the measure and at the top set the data category to image URL. This step ensures the pie chart renders correctly as an image. Return to the Build view and add this measure to the table. At this stage, the table works but looks unpolished, with a lot of unnecessary spacing. To refine it, let's add more detail. Insert total sales for each country, and also create another field for total sales but rename it simply as sales. This second field will be formatted as a bar inside the table. Now let's format the table for a cleaner look. In the Format pane, go to Image Size and reduce both the height and width. Then, back in the Build pane, rename the pie chart column, but instead of text, enter just 2 empty spaces so the header is blank. Next, reduce the font size of both values and column headers to 9. Adjust the table layout and change the header background color to match the overall dashboard background. To simplify the appearance, Open grid lines and turn off both grid lines and borders. Then head to Cell Elements, select the second sales column, and turn on bars. Open the FX formatting, set it to show bars only, and customize the positive bar color and axis. Finally, adjust the bar thickness to fit neatly in the table. There's one more important step. Currently, if we select a country in the map, the table also filters. But for this setup, we don't want the table to filter. To fix this, go to Format at the top, choose Edit Interactions, and disable the table by clicking the circle marked None next to it. Now, for example, if we select Australia on the map zooms in while the table remains unchanged. With this setup, we can clearly see that USA, UK, India, Germany, and Brazil were the top 5 countries generating the most orders and the highest sales in the year 2023.